Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. First annual Rodal Siblings Making Shabbat. We're here. We're going to go to 4 different continents, 5 time zones. We're going to see all of the Rodal siblings here. Of course, I'm the MC because I'm the favorite child. I've always been the favorite child, and everyone else is muted, so I'm going to repeat that again. The favorite child here, so I'm the one speaking. We have a delicious program ahead full of culinary delights, Torah delights, social delights, family delights, and we're really excited to be doing this. And the opportunity we have now in quarantine, fortunately, we can't get out. Um, and we've seen, I was in the supermarket today actually, and I went to buy yeast, and there's a shortage, and we see the shortage of meat. So many people around the world are at home and they're cooking more and they're spending more time with family. So we thought, what a great opportunity to show people how we cook. And my siblings tonight represent Chabad houses throughout the world, literally from Australia, South Africa, Europe, the West Coast of America, the East Coast of America. And some of the people here that you're going to see traditionally cook for hundreds of people on a regular Shabbat. Tonight, we're going to ask them to really tone it down and show us how to cook a recipe for just a few people. And without further ado, we're going to try to keep this as short as possible and as moving along, getting all the information. And don't forget, there will be there's a link posted for the recipe card. So any recipes you want, you'll have that. We're going to start off on the West Coast of the United States, all the way in Moore Park, California, where my dear sister, Devorah Heidingsfeld, will begin. Take us away.
Hey everyone, welcome to Siblings Make Shabbat. So we're going to start with gefilte fish. This is Bubby's favorite gefilte fish. You can just buy a loaf. We're going to be making this one. I'm going to tell you more about other kinds of fish you can make while we're going. But this is just, you can get a frozen loaf in any kosher supermarket that I know of. And I use this one, but any of them work. So I already have it here. What you do is defrost it. And I have it defrosted here. And all we're going to do is add 2 eggs. And for those who don't know, there's a special way to check eggs. We go like this. I want to make sure there's no blood spots. So we're just going to look for a blood spot. We do it in a clear cup so it's easy to see, and drop it right in. And we got our second egg. And we check for the blood spots. We're not supposed to eat anything with blood. So that's my eggs. And then we do 3/4 of a cup of flavored breadcrumbs. So really you can use matzah meal, you can use regular breadcrumbs and put in your own seasonings. I like to do this because it's easy. Everything's already there. You don't need to add anything. You just throw that in. And then we have 1 cup of water. So I got my 1 cup measured. I'm just going to put it right in. And all you got to do is mix. So gefilte fish is as old as the Torah. It's written that you're supposed to have oneg Shabbat. You're supposed to enjoy Shabbat with pleasurable things, and one of those is fish. Now, really, you can do any type of gefilte fish, or salmon, or herring, or tuna fish, or I don't know, you name it. Trout, any kind of kosher fish that has fins and scales is considered fish. We like to do, there's the traditional is gefilte fish. You can do cooked or baked or fried. There's probably other ways. These are my three main ways. Cooked is just simply you heat water on the stovetop, and when it comes to a boil, you add the frozen fish. You just take off the wrapper, put in just the fish inside its own wrapper, not the outside, and you let it cook for 2 hours at a high flame, making sure to add water if it boils out. I've learned that the hard way. The next way is baked fish. And this is my mother's favorite recipe. Shout out to Mom. We take the fish, open it, and even open the packaging that it comes in to show you. So you would, with the cooked, you're going to leave it in the packaging. With the baked, you take it out of this wrapper, and you put it in a pan. You put on some tomato sauce and some cornflake crumbs, and you put it in at 350 and let it cook covered for 1 hour and uncovered for 1 hour. But now we're doing the fried fish, which is my Bubby's favorite. It was called Bubby's Fried Fish Latkes. This is actually all my guests when they come. Anybody who's on here from Moore Park, you know that this is what everyone requests. Please make the fried fish, and so do my children. So this is a family favorite. Now all we need to do is fry them. We go on over to And make sure I already put the oil inside. You could use any type of oil. We want to make sure that the oil is really hot so that it fries right away. So
how runny do you want the fish to be?
Oh, such a good question. So it says to do 3/4 of a cup, so it will look like this, not too runny. But you could add more water or add more breadcrumbs if you want it to be a little thinner or thicker. Okay, so once your oil, you see it bubbling a little bit, that's when you're going to start doing your frying. So again, one of the reasons that we have fish on Shabbat is because of Oneg Shabbat. Another reason, you see, that's how you know oil's ready, when it starts bubbling like that. And then you just want to space them at like far apart enough that you can be able to turn them over.
I can smell that all the way here in Florida.
Sorry?
I can smell that frying all the way here in Florida.
Ooh, it smells even better here. I wish it could have the scent and
can you
send it over.
Tell us a little about the history of gefilte fish, where it came from, and why it's such a Jewish food?
Yes, but before I do that, I don't want it to burn. So if you look close, how do you know when to turn it? Well, I'm going to turn it down because it's going too fast. But you see when it's brown at the bottom, then it's time to turn. So you could just turn them over with your favorite turning spatula. And the reason why we have fish, one of them is because of Oneg Shabbat. Another one is there's something called gematria, where every letter equals a number. So Aleph is 1, Bet is 2. And the word in Hebrew for fish is Dag, Dalet Gimel, which equals 7. And Shabbat is the 7th day of the week. But even more important than that is when Mashiach comes, we're going to have a meal called the Leviathan. It's a giant fish that's going to feed everyone. And since Shabbat is kind of like a microcosm of the Mashiach, we enjoy fish every Shabbat so that we can feel the taste of Mashiach. One final reason is kind of the same thing as Tashlich that we do on Rosh Hashanah, that fish don't have eyelids, they never close their eyes. So this is symbolic of God never closing his eyes, and he's always with us, even when it seems like things are crazy, like now. But God is with us, he knows what's going on, and we're gonna have the Leviathan really soon. And what I do here is I put it onto a paper towel. I couldn't find paper towels in the stores, so I use a napkin. But usually paper towel is better for the oil. And I just let it.
Don't use toilet paper.
You know, toilet paper is a great idea. I don't know how well it's gonna keep the oil, but
it's very expensive fish.
We just put it out, and I have it all ready for you right here. We have our beautiful gefilte fish, and I like to serve it with, this is called chrenes. It's a mixture of horseradish called chrane and mayonnaise. You could really just serve it with regular horseradish, but this tastes so good. So thank you all for watching. Shabbat Shalom, and on to the next one of my wonderful siblings.
That was incredible, and that amazing how fast and easy that was, and more importantly, how delicious it is. Moving along, so we're doing this in order of the traditional Shabbat meal, which starts off generally with fish, and moving along to the younger side of the family, to the two of my favorite youngest sisters, Chaya and Brachi. Interesting tidbit: Brachi is the only sibling who's not married, but I can only say that for another 4 weeks or so.
3 weeks and 2 days. Don't forget those days. Very important.
Wait. How long?
3 weeks, and I actually didn't count the days.
Oh, okay. And I believe it's 16 hours and 23 minutes, but who's counting? In any event,
22 minutes.
Chaya and Brachi are going to show us the art of making a sushi cake in keeping in the theme of fish course. All the way from Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brachi.
I'm Chaya.
And we're in a very exotic location. It's a great vacation place, Brooklyn, New York. It's not like a California roll where you get nice sushi, but we're gonna get rolling with a Brooklyn roll. So we're making sushi cake. So before doing any of the ingredients, the first ingredient that is very, very, very special and is the key to success is giving charity, giving tzedakah before you start cooking. Success tool. So I'm gonna put in a coin, and now we could get start. So we did 1 cup of rice and you just follow the directions on the bag. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to just pour it right in and I'm going to flatten it to be all the way on the bottom of the plate. Gonna flatten it all the way. For your info, before eating any food, we have a special mitzvah to make a blessing over the food called a bracha. It's very interesting that rice has a very big debate of which bracha, which blessing we should make. Some rabbis say we should make the blessing of mazonos. Some rabbis say we should make the blessing of shahako. And some rabbis say we should make the blessing of ha'adama. So the best thing is, instead of not eating the sushi cake, is to actually make a blessing individually on different foods, 1 mazonos, 1 shahako, and 1 ha'adama. And then you could take your rice without feeling guilty.
Rachi, could you tell us a little bit about how you prepared the rice?
I'll leave that up to my older sister.
So this is sushi rice, white sushi rice. You make
That's called respect right there.
you make 1 cup of the sushi rice. For traditional sushi rice, it's best to rinse the rice in a strainer and a colander until the water is clear for about 2 minutes or so. And then you soak it in the water for half an hour, and then you bring it to a boil. As soon as it boils, turn it down to a low flame for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes until the water has receded. Take it off of the flame, let it cool a little bit, and then fluff it up with a fork. So if you could see, it's pretty sticky. It's good traditional sushi rice here. So we're using a plate on the bottom for presentation. And just to keep our sushi cake, the sushi cake is meant to be a showstopper, because on Shabbat, we like to pull out all the stops. We're honoring the Shabbat queen. We want to make sure to do it to the best of our ability. So to make this a real showstopper, in order to see all the layers beautifully, I use a springform pan. So I have this is the springform pan, and I just put it on top of a nice glass platter for presentation. So the first layer is we have our sushi rice layer. Next, in sushi comes our nori. So this is just roasted nori sheets that you could get in any store. Just rip it up into small pieces because it's a little bit tough to bite. So it's just to make it easier to cut up and eat into. We just chop it up into smaller pieces and then layer it over the sushi cake, trying to make a single layer. Give me another pair of gloves. The nori's sticking to my gloves now, so I'm just gonna switch gloves. You want to try to get it into a nice layer so that it's as covered. It should cover as much of the sushi rice as possible. Then for our next layer, we're going to do a layer of sliced cucumber. So if you slice them nice and thin, you still get that nice crunch, but without like too much of a cucumber bite. I actually don't like cucumbers myself, so we're just going to take the cucumbers and we're going to layer them around, trying to again cover the entire surface. You can take as much time with this presentation as you would like. What's most important is because it's a springform pan, when we take it off, you're going to see the edges. So if you're going to concentrate on presentation, the edges are more important because that's where you see the nice layers. Middle, you want more for the texture and the flavors. So the middle doesn't have to look as nice. So I have the edges of it layered, and here I'm just putting in the cucumbers. So the entire surface is kind of covered with cucumbers. For our next layer, we're going to take some kani sticks. So this is kosher. It's imitation crab. It's actually made of whitefish, I believe, or maybe a blend of other fishes. I put it into my food processor. I want to try to get it into a nice paste. So into the food processor, I just pulsed it for a little bit, and then we add 2 to 3 tablespoons of mayo, depending on how much mayo you like to use. And we're going to pulse it again a little bit until we get a very smooth consistency. So excuse the noise. Just going to pulse it. Okay.
Well, outside of pulsing, I want to point out, if you look in the chat, on the Zoom, there's a link to the recipe page where you can download all the recipes for tonight.
Okay, we're just going to take this mixture and we're going to sprinkle it on top. And just push it down so that it makes a nice solid layer. And again, concentrate on the edges so that you get that beautiful presentation when you pull apart the springform pan. I actually got this recipe from another one of my fancier sisters, who I believe is coming on next, my sister Hannah Razel. She was the one who originally showed this to me. So Hannah Razel, I hope I'm doing you proud and not embarrassing you, your famous sushi cake. So this
I think
is,
a lot of us got our recipes from Fundraiser.
yeah, this is a layer. This is the layered kani. On top, sorry, the layered kani. On top of the kani, we're almost finished. Our next layer is going to be sliced avocado. And again, we're going to layer it. So taking care on the corners, just trying on the edge. I'm trying to layer it nicely on the edge. So again, we get that nice presentation. Usually this uses about like a little bit more than half an avocado, depending on how thinly you slice them. Okay, and that is these are the basic layers of the sushi cake. Okay, and you can leave out or add in whatever other flavors you would like. For our topping, we have French's fried onions, which you can get at any local grocery store. Just it's this company, French's fried onions. It gives a wonderful texture and a wonderful crunch. It also tastes very good. Just crunch it up a little bit just to break up the pieces a little. Sprinkle it over the entire top. We want to try to cover as much of it as possible. And then just to give that final touch, we have sushi sauces. So I live in Crown Heights where everything is nice and convenient. We have a spicy mayo already made and a sweet unagi sauce. You can use your favorite sushi sauces, whatever you'd like. I like to use two tones, so that way it looks nicer. I don't recommend using soy sauce because soy sauce just soaks right through and it doesn't look nice and it just makes the whole thing very soggy. I also like to do each of them going different ways. So the spicy mayo I'm going to do in horizontal stripes, and the sweet sauce I'm going to do in vertical stripes, or vice versa, whichever way you like. So that way we get a beautiful like that on top. And now we're ready for the unveiling. We open up our spring form.
Happy birthday, Chazi.
Nice.
And we have our sushi cake here. We can cut a slice so you can see inside all the wonderful layers that we've just made. And here we have a beautiful slice of sushi cake. Shabbat shalom to you all.
Thank you, Chaya and Bracha in New York. And now we're going to travel a little further south to the very tip of the United States, to Miami Beach, Florida, South Beach, where my dear sister, Hannah Razel Sasunko, will show us how to make a delicious salad.
My name is Hannah Razel. Mushki, you did make me proud. You did a great job. So we're going to do something here a little simpler. We're going to do a fresh, delicious kale salad. You know, kale is all the rage now, very healthy for you. You can do all different types of things with it. The best thing about the salad is that really you can make it all in advance. So if you get it all taken care of, I already have my dressing. I made it last night and put it in the fridge. You'll see in the recipe everything you need. You can have everything in advance and just kind of assemble it right before or even more in advance, because kale can really hold up well. It's a tougher lettuce and it actually is better when it soaks in the dressing. So the first thing you want to do is pour in your dressing so that the kale has time for it to like kind of soak up. Kale is tough, so you want to massage it in. I do want to say that this is not a recipe that I made up. I got it as a forward on like one of these groups that I'm on. So it's not something I made up. I did kind of tweak the dressing a little bit because I thought it was like a little bit too tangy for me. So I added a little bit more, I added a little bit more sugar, and you can decide for yourself, add to your taste. Okay, so really you're gonna massage it in. And what I did before with the kale is that as I put it in the bowl, I took off all the thicker stems because that is not pleasant to eat. So here you just have the leaves really. Give it a nice, you want to massage it. That's what they say. And you can already see how it has wilted down a bunch.
How much, or how much before the meal can you prepare this? How soggy does it get over time?
You could really do it right before. That's the truth. I've done that many times. But you can also do it, I mean, like right before Shabbat comes in, or, you know, maybe an hour or two before the meal, you can have the, that's just for the lettuce. The other stuff you can have way before. I do have some other lettuce I'm going to add in just because it wilted down a lot. Just have that in mind that it does get smaller. Okay. I chose this salad because it is always a crowd pleaser, and it is also just so pretty. You know, they say that you eat with your eyes, and I really find that's true. When people think that something is pretty, they're willing to try something even if they wouldn't necessarily have. And it's just a little bit of a different spin than your regular fresh salad. Okay, let me change my pair of gloves here. Okay. Sorry, my kids are supposed to be in bed. But, all right, so, all right, here we go. Okay, if you want, my husband's holding the video on top so we can see. All right, so over here, we have some hard-boiled eggs. I am going to slice them lengthwise. Really can go either way. Oh, whoops, I actually meant to do the other way. All right, it's fine. Doesn't matter. If you have an egg slicer at this point, that is pretty great. I should probably invest in one of those. And then we're just gonna lay it out nicely. Okay, like this. Okay, do another one. Actually, it's funny because I like to make, you know, complicated dishes, complicated desserts, but for some reason I could not get, actually two things. I could not figure out for the life of me how to get a perfectly cooked hard-boiled egg, and I could not figure out how to do, I still can't figure out how to do couscous. I can't even tell you how many trial runs I've done. The hard-boiled egg, I finally figured out. You bring up a pot of water to boiling, then you drop in your eggs and time it for 14 minutes exactly, uncovered. And that will give you a perfect hard-boiled egg. Not a spot of green, and most of them anyway. And then you plunge it into an ice cold bath, and that will allow you to peel it very easily afterwards.
Do me a favor, next time you try it for 11 minutes. That's why it's called an 11-minute egg.
But look how perfect they came out, and this was 14 minutes. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I have these sauteed purple onions, which again, I made in advance. You just keep it in the fridge. This is one very large purple onion. You do not need to use this much, especially if you're making a smaller salad, but it is delicious and you can use it in different dishes. It's always nice to have. I sauteed them until they are nice and tender. You don't want them to be hard anymore, but you also don't want to do it too long that they lose that beautiful color, because this is going to add such a beautiful, look at that, the pop of the yellow and the white against the green. So beautiful. And this adds so much flavor. And it's just plain sauteed, no spices in there or anything like that. We're almost done our salad. Next thing I have is an avocado. And we're just going to dice that up. Here we go. The way I dice it is just like so. Other way. Okay, and then if you just lightly go around, and if I was fancy, I would get a spoon, but whoops, kind of just squeeze it out and let it fall as it may. Okay.
Is there a person behind those hands? Great gloves, by the way.
Yeah, these are commodity. I might wash them and use them
They
again.
really make your eyes pop.
Put them in the thing. Okay, I'm just gonna continue this last avocado. We are almost done here. Can you see me? Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. Okay, there we go. And last but not least, we've got some toasted almonds. Whoops. And these, all you do is you throw them in the oven. You don't have to spray your pan or anything like that. Put it on 350 or whatever for literally 2 minutes. I've burnt them many times because I just forget about them. They add so much flavor, and it's even a good snack just to eat itself. And then you're gonna go ahead and pour that in. Now I didn't make it that pretty, but there you have your salad. I don't know if you can see, and you dig in and enjoy.
Thank you very much. Looks great. So we got to check out California, New York, Florida. So let's go a little bit further this time, and let's go down under to Australia, where it is brand new morning. We'll say hello to my dear brother Yassi and his dear wife Malki.
Hi everyone, I'm
Hello,
Malki.
I'm Yassi, and together we have been doing Rara for a few years. We've been traveling around Australia, so we have had to adapt and to finding recipes which are easy to find out in the outback and do not necessarily need items which are hard to find and easy to make without a kosher oven. You just need a stove, etc. So we're going to be making gnocchi here. Gnocchi.
So Yassi's going to do all the hard work and I'm just going to stand here and talk, which is basically the summary of our marriage. So Yassi is going to start with the gnocchi. So we for ease of, to make it an easy recipe, we actually buy this gnocchi. I'm not sure if you can get it in America, but any sort of store-bought gnocchi works. If you want to get fancy, you could probably make it yourself, but that's not going to be us today. So what you do is you just pop it into a pot of water that's rolling boil, and it cooks really fast, like probably 2 minutes and you're done. And the way you know that it's cooked is when it starts to float to the top. So you dump it in and it all sinks to the bottom. And as they cook, they float up. As soon as they float to the top, you want to grab a slotted spoon and pop them into a bowl. While they're cooking, Yassi's going to start on the next little bit of the exercise of the recipe, and that's to cut up your sun-dried tomatoes. So you just cut them kind of small. Depends, if you like the sun-dried tomatoes chunky. There's two ways to do it. You can either use a knife, but what we love to do is to get a pair of kitchen scissors, and it literally takes a couple of seconds to just cut it all up. As Yassi said, we do RARA, which stands for Rural and Regional Australia. So we spend our days on the road, traveling around to different towns and cities. And most often or always when we're on the road, we don't have a kosher kitchen. So we have a kind of standalone plug-in stove that we have with us. So we've really, over the years, refined our menus for Shabbos, because obviously we want to impress people with kosher food and all the delicacies, but at the same time, we don't want to be spending all day in the kitchen. So as you can see, Elsie's just pulling out the gnocchis as they rise to the top. Don't rush them. If they're still floating upwards, just give them another minute to come up, because you don't want them to be chewy.
So here's some Rodal family trivia. Yassi and Malki are celebrities, and they are featured in a full-length feature film that's currently being shown around the world. And I highly recommend that you watch it. If your local Chabad center has not gotten it, then definitely talk to them about it. It's called Outback Rabbis and features Yassi and Malki right here, our celebrity chefs.
Well, one thing important to note is that you don't want to put the whole package in at once. It won't cook evenly. At this point, we have finished cooking the gnocchi. You don't want it to stick together, so you just take a little bit of oil.
My favorite is to add olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, but really any oil works. another important thing that we forgot to mention is you want to salt the water that you're cooking the gnocchi in really well. For the Americans online, that's water. And then you just pop in all your sun-dried tomatoes.
And you should probably be putting in, yep, earlier. After that, it gets quite easy.
Hey, you're doing the cooking, I'm doing the talking.
All right.
So pretty easy. We're just going to dump in some pesto, store-bought. This one's actually really nice and tasty. I think it's Israeli or Israeli style or something. It's got a lot of garlic in it. It's really well spiced, but some other pestos we've used are a little bit more subtle or lame. So you just want to taste it after you've mixed it really well. And sometimes it might need some more salt, it might need some garlic, but otherwise it usually comes together really easily. And that's pretty much it. If you want to get extra fancy, you can roast some pine nuts and sprinkle that on top. That just gives it a little bit more of a pizzazz. But if you want to just, the best trick here is pour it into a fancy bowl, and then anything you make looks super duper.
And you
watch the transformation.
You can also exchange the gnocchi if you don't have that locally with any pasta. Pesto pasta is wonderful.
It's the exact same recipe, just with pasta. And I would say that this, look how nice that looks. I would say that this works best when it's served hot. I wouldn't recommend serving it cold. If you do want to make it for daytime or you want to serve it cold, make it with the pasta and it's extra delicious, and you can literally pull it out of the fridge and pop it in a bowl.
I also wanted to mention quickly, we have matzah in the corner because today is Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach. It's a month after the original Pesach. And in Judaism, it symbolizes the time that you're never able to miss out. If you have the right intentions, then it's never too late. And if you have matzah at home, then you should probably pop it in the oven. It's probably stale by now, probably was stale before first Pesach, but pop it in the oven and have some. You can eat it with any chametz that you want. And everyone have a happy Pesach Sheni and a Shabbat Shalom from Down Under.
Bye.
And
Thank you, Yossi. What time is it in Australia now?
It's Sunday morning here already. We're no, it's actually midwinter, and Shabbat is coming in approximately 4 hours.
Like a good rabbi, he doesn't answer the question. It's 10:30.
10:30. You guys are literally preparing for Shabbat. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Well,
So we move along from Australia to a little closer home, about halfway or so. We're going to take a quick stop in Europe. We're going to go to Denmark, where my sister Rodal runs the Chabad house in Copenhagen, Denmark, along with her husband Yitzi. Right now, it is really early in the morning in Denmark. So she put together a video. Now, Rodal is the top caterer in entire Scandinavia, kosher caterer, the only one, kid. She also runs a restaurant out of her Chabad house in Copenhagen. And she's going to she put together a video about tips and tricks of folding napkins, because when people come to your table, presentation really is key. So let's roll the video of Rodal Lowenthal from Copenhagen, Denmark.
Hi, and welcome to Copenhagen, Denmark. So Shabbat is the highlight of the week. It's the focal point, and very important is to create that mindset in our heads. It's about creating an island in time. It's about using not only tuning into the spiritual aspects, but also practically creating that feeling in the home. So I'm just going to give a few tips on, first of all, some easy napkin folds and some tips and hacks for how to create. You don't have time, and you just want to make this, like beautiful Shabbos feeling. Here we go. So for starters, easy napkin folds. I fold it in diagonal, and I put these are pretty large napkins. So let's say I just put it like this, and I put my plate right here, and picture every table setting has that, and you could even get with a design napkin, with a color napkin, and it creates a very elegant look. You can try to make it look like a table runner, which means you can go like this with white. It gives like a nice elegant atmosphere. Of course, you can also have a beautiful tablecloth on your table, and you can use now very simple, basic napkin fold. Take a napkin, open it. Very simple. This is the sail. Just simply bring the two sides in. Ta-da! Have your cup, and you simply create a flame and put it in. There's also the possibility of you could make a fan, and you just make a quick fan over here. Fold it in half, place it in your cup, bend it down, and here you go. And the final fold, it's a little more complicated, but not terribly complicated. Fold, open your napkin in half, and you're gonna fold halfway, you're gonna fan it halfway down. When it's just about halfway down or halfway down, we now take it, have the folds on the outside. Fold the napkin in half so that the fan parts are on the outside. And now you're now going to bring the open part of your napkin on the diagonal. Tuck it under, put down, and you've got yourself an elegant fan. I'm going to show you something else that is a very effective, easy way of creating, if you want to put out napkins. So you have your pile of napkins, and instead of just plumping it on the table like that, you could simply give it a little twist around you could do it around your sleeve, goes very nicely. And as you can see, it just gives a little different take. Another quick idea is if we take the same idea that we had before, you take the sails, so if you want to host a party and you just want to put on, instead of just putting a pile of napkins, even the nice pile that we demonstrated before, you want to give it a little more dramatic, you just make the sails, we said, put them out, and you can make one or a few around the table. It just gives a nice, more celebratory atmosphere. Move on to just a little bit of a garnish. I have a piece of chocolate cake, which I can simply put out on the table. Or I can, for example, just to create some, I live in a country where it's very hard to find kosher supplies, so it would be very hard to get something like cream, but just picture if you had a piece of cake and you had a little thing of whipped cream over here. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna take some cocoa, you can use confectionery sugar, and use your strainer over here, and you could put anything in the middle. We're just trying to give an effect, and you could do it as thick as you want, as thin as you want, as much drama as you like it. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. And pick up your prop. Put your cake or ice cream or whatever might be in the middle. Now, if you had some berries and some mint, just there you go. Best, of course, is to involve your kids, involve your family. Don't try to do this with happiness, with joy. Just remember that the bottom line is when you look back at Shabbat, it should be a time of happiness, a time of joy, not just time of stress. And in your preparation, remember that the ones around you, your family and that are close to you, your kids and your spouse that are around you, they should remember that Shabbat is something to look forward to, and not just like, oh no, here comes Shabbat. Mom is going to be stressed. So enjoy, and thanks for joining tonight. Wish I could be with you live, but the timing just didn't work for us. But wishing everybody a Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, virtual Rachel. More trivia: Rachel is the oldest girl in the family, the third from the oldest. We are now going to guide and go all the way to our west coast, where Shalom Bear and Rachel Rodal are standing by in Mount Olympus, California. What Gordon Ramsay is to cooking, my dear brother Shalom Bear is to Chabad rabbis. Please take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Rabbi Shalom Bear Rodal, and this is
Rachla.
my wife Rachela. And before she takes over, a spiritual thought about Shabbat, as my sister Devorah in Moore Park said, that all the foods of Shabbat are all related numerically in gematria to the number 7. She said, Doug is fish, Dalet and Gimel is 7. Now we're going to do chicken, and there's 2 famous chicken dishes in the Shabbat meal. There's chicken soup, which is called marak. The mem is 4, the resh is 2, and the kuf is 1 equals 7. Of course, we have a main chicken dish, which is oaf. Oaf is ayin is 7, and then we have pei is 8, which is 15, and then we have the vav, which is 21. 3 times 7 is 21, corresponding to the 3 meals on Shabbat. So it's very special to have meat and fish and fowl and delicacies to honor and have pleasure on Shabbat. I give it over to Rebbetzin Rachela.
Hi, so we're gonna make za'atar chicken today. I think it's an ottolenghi recipe. I'm not 100% because I got it from a friend, so there are some modifications. So we'll start very quickly. So it starts in a marinade. So we're gonna put all the ingredients to the marinade inside here. So we'll start with crushed garlic.
I'm the sous chef.
Next is 4 tablespoons olive oil.
And again, the recipes are in the chats, and you could download full recipe card for everything.
Okay, we have ground cinnamon and sumac and a little bit of fresh lemon juice. Okay, and then some stock or some water.
Gotta take stock of ourselves.
And here we have salt and pepper. Okay, so first. Okay.
Okay.
So here we have our chicken.
It's real.
We'll put our 1 chicken inside a bag to marinate. And we have 1 second, and we have 2 sliced onions. So put that all inside. Okay, then we pour in the marinade. Okay, so usually you marinate this for a few hours, or overnight is fine too in the refrigerator. But since we're short on time here, we're going to take this lovely chicken and put it on the tray to go straight into the oven. So here's our pan.
The recipe that you did, how much will that cover? How many chickens?
This is 1 chicken. This is 1 chicken cut in 8, or whatever pieces I found. It could be all darks, it could be, but it's about, yes, I guess like 8 pieces. So here you can see the nice, I don't know if you can see the nice marinade on it. So you put the chicken down, flat. And then you put all the onions on top. I think that's enough onions. Okay. And then this is za'atar. It's a Middle Eastern spice. My hands are all dirty. You put it very liberally.
Don't forget we're in the Hollywood Hills of California, so very liberally.
More. Put lots on. Okay, show. Okay, that's good. That's perfect. That's fine. Show what it looks like. So it looks like this. Okay,
beautiful.
And you put it in the oven on 350 for about 1.5 hours. You want the onions to shrivel. And I actually have one for display over here.
You put it in uncovered or covered?
Uncovered, sorry, uncovered. And here is one for display. You can see
Wow.
how the onions shrivel. And it's got a fantastic taste. It's
So, we want to thank Rebbitzin, Rachla, for unbelievable cooking skills, and don't be chicken to make za'atar chicken.
And with
Over and out.
that, thank you from Chabad Amor Park. And we didn't want to stay in America for too long. We don't want to bore you with California or Florida, New York. So let's travel across the world to a new continent, the continent of Africa. We'll go all the way to the south to Johannesburg, where the oldest Rodal sibling, my brother Mordechai, and his wife Sarla are the executive directors of Chabad of Norwood in Johannesburg. Again, also due to timing, they actually the same time zone as Denmark, so it's really early in the morning. They also put together a video of how to make delicious pineapple Lakshan kugel. South Africa, please.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rodal. Welcome to my kitchen in Johannesburg, South Africa.
And I'm Mordechai. I'm the oldest of the 11 Rodal siblings. We're both here on Shlichus. We run a Chabad house called Chabad of Norwood. We're also both teachers in the local Chabad school called Torah Academy. We have 11 children, Kenai and Hora, one almost 2 grandchildren, Kenai and Hora, from whom, of course, we get lots of nachas. Just a quick word about kugel. Kugel is a very traditional food. Today you might find many, many varieties. It could be made with all kinds of different ingredients. The most well-known of kugels are potato or Lakshan or Yerushalmi kugels. We find reference made to it in the Talmud. It goes back that long ago to a kugel-like food called pashtida. And the reason why it was eaten is it reminds us of the manna that fell in the desert to sustain the Jews. And we know on Shabbos, we had a double portion of that. Today, we eat it not only to remind us of the time back then, but also to remind us of our hope in the coming of Mashiach, which is referred to the day that will be entirely Shabbat, when we'll be able to taste the man once again. May that time come immediately.
So the dish I'm about to make is Lakshan kugel. It's actually a pineapple Lakshan kugel. It's quite a sweet dish, but really simple to make. So I've already boiled the noodles. They're made already, and I'll keep them on the side for now. The rest of the ingredients we're going to be putting into the bowl together. There's 3/4 of a cup of sugar. There's a can of pineapple pieces. And then I'm going to be putting in 6 eggs. I've already checked 5 of them. We check eggs for kashrus reasons to make sure that there is no blood spot. So we move it from side to side or lift the glass up so that we are able to look inside. And then I'm going to put all the eggs inside with the other ingredients. Okay, as well, there's 3 tablespoons of oil, lemon juice, and salt. All of these ingredients just get mixed together so that they are mixed very well before adding the noodles. While we add the noodles, just slowly at first, a bit at a time, to make sure that they get mixed into the mixture. So it all just gets mixed in all together.
And of course, my job in this whole thing is to ensure it's under rabbinic supervision. Lovely.
And at this point, it's about putting it into the dish. You can use oven to tableware, as this can be served hot or cold. It's lovely as a Shabbos day cold dish or as a warm Friday night dish. And then we take it to the oven. It bakes for 1 hour. And 1 hour later, it's ready to come out. A beautiful Lakshan kugel. Thank you for watching. Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you so much from Johannesburg, South Africa. And now we're going to bring it back to South Florida, right here in my very home, my kitchen. I want to talk to you about meat. So meat is a big theme in Jewish festivities, Shabbat, and on festivals and weddings. It brought down that to show real festivity, one eats meat. So there are many different types of meat, and we only have a few minutes. So I want to talk to you briefly about meat. And it's really important to know, well, what to choose of where the meat comes from. So put a picture up here just to give you an idea. So when you go to the supermarket, you see all different types. You might see a rib roast or brisket. How do you know what to get and how to cook it? So in the front half of the cow, you see there's the chuck, the rib, the brisket, the plate, and the shank. And then the rest is a short loin. Now, if you go into a kosher supermarket, hopefully you'll never find a short loin or a round steak. If you do, then please walk out and call Agent Emmis, because that is not a kosher cut of meat. So why is that? Briefly, if you see the line between the rib and the short loin, so a cow has a number of ribs, like every vertebrate does. And according to the Torah, there are different fats that have to be brought in the Holy Temple. And unfortunately, because we don't have the Holy Temple now, we're not permitted to eat those fats. Now, we're not exactly sure how that works and how to remove those fats. So the accepted tradition is that we do not eat from the 13th rib and on. So moving away from the neck, we only eat the meat between the 12th and the 13th rib. And after that, it simply is not kosher. So you'll never find a kosher flank steak or tenderloin or filet mignon, which you've heard a lot about. Now, there are some kosher supermarkets that call their the center cut ribeye the filet mignon, but it's not a real filet mignon. You'll never find a kosher filet mignon in America. To be sure, in Israel and in certain other parts of the world, they do eat it. Now, the back is different, a different reason than the ribs. The center part we don't eat because of the fat. But in the book of Genesis, there's a story where Jacob was fighting with the angel of Esau, and he kicked him in the leg and injured him. And the Torah says from that day forward, we do not eat the sciatic valve in the leg. Now, for many years, there was a tradition amongst butchers that they knew how to remove that vein from the back quarter of the cow, and we could eat the rest of it. But following World War II, and when butchers started dying out and it became a lost art, people simply forgot the tradition of how to take that vein out. So there became this decree in America that we simply do not eat the entire back half of the cow. Now, some of the Sephardic traditions maintain that tradition in Israel and some countries in South America, and that's completely kosher. But in America, there is an accepted view that we do not eat the back of the half. So we saw in the chuck roast, back to the picture, where the meat is on the cow will really determine what the type of meat is. So the chuck sits, if we go back to the picture for a minute, sits on top of the shoulder of the cow, which that really is doing the most of the work of the cow, and that's really propelling the cow forward. There's the most muscles there, and that's going to be the toughest piece of meat. So when you have a chuck steak, that kind of meat you want to have low, slow cooking. It's going to take a while. It's got to be in liquid. You can't do that dry. You want to braise it, steam it, roasting in liquid. You'll find the French roast, silver tip. You find the London broil. London broil is the most tender part that you can grill. Oyster steak. This is where we get beef cubes from because it goes in stew. It needs a while to cook. Their colicle is a very cheap meat, traditionally used for cholent meat, again, because it's stewing overnight. That is a very tough part. There's a lot of tendons because it's so connected to the shoulder, the rest of the muscles. There's a lot going on there. But right next to it in the rib side really doesn't do any work. It's just there to support, and it's fatty, and it's really just it's the most tender kosher kosher meat. The muscles are just used to support, and you'll find well-marbled meat there. You'll find the prime rib. This is meat that you don't want to use liquid You want to use dry rubs or just salt and pepper. It has a lot of natural flavor to it. You'll find Delmonico steak. Also important to note that some kosher butchers use different terms, but generally those are the terms that you'll find. This is the perfect meat for grilling, for searing, for broiling. You don't want to cook it too long, and you don't want to use liquid. Right under the rib is the plate. That is where you'll find skirt steak, hanger steaks. This is it also has a lot of fat. You see it's at the bottom. There's not a lot of muscle there, so there's a lot of fat, which makes it juicy. This portion you can either do dry or liquid. You could do it just put it in the oven or on the grill, or you could stew it in liquid, and this will be a good juicy one. Now, below the chuck is the brisket. See, it's right above the knee, so it's doing a lot of work. Not quite as much as the chuck, so it's a very tough piece of meat. And traditionally, is why brisket has become so popular, because it's a cheaper cut meat, and it's slow cooked. It's used for Shabbat a lot. It's used for corned beef, for pastrami, for those kinds of things that stew a lot. Now, there's two parts to a brisket, and sometimes you'll see there's a first cut and a second cut. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the quality. So the brisket has the first part, and the brisket that I'm using, I actually use the first part. I wish I had used the second part, but there's limited meat supplies right now. So I have the first cut. The first cut is a lot more tender. It's generally more expensive than the second cut. And again, the first and second cut doesn't have to do with quality. It has to do with the two sides of the brisket. So an average brisket is 10 to 15 pounds, and you'll get these cuts, 2 to 3 or 4 pounds. The second cut is juicier and it's more tender. The problem with the second cut is that it tends to rip, shred, and pull apart. I'm making shredded beef, so that would be the perfect cut for it. Again, we're gonna do the first cut, because sometimes you just take what you can get. First cut also works, but that's better for slicing. Like if you want to slice a brisket or corned beef or things like that. And then the bottom part, the shank, really is used for beef marrow. There's very little meat there. It's not really prominent in kosher cuisine or any other cuisine. I'm moving along from that. I just want to talk about really quickly a really, really important tool in the kitchen is this. And I think we're done with the picture for right now. So it is a meat thermometer. Now, when you're cooking a roast or any type of big piece of meat, there's really no way to know when it's ready or not. Now, as a restaurateur and as a chef, when I'm making a steak, I can do that by touch, by feel. With a roast, you simply don't know. Even if you know the time, you don't know, how hot the oven was. There's all kinds of things. The only real way to figure it out is to use a thermometer, and you stick it in. There's all kinds of thermometers from very cheap to expensive. So 125 is going to be rare, and then every 5 to 10 degrees it's going to go up. If you like medium, it's going to be 145. Well done is going to be 180. Now, just remember, when you take out the meat, when it's resting, and we got to rest meat after, rest just means let it sit, it's going to go up another 5 or 10 degrees just by the internal heat. So if you want your steak to be medium, take it out when it's at 130, 135. So by the time you're ready to cut it, after it's resting for 15, 20 minutes, it will be at a temperature nice and pink inside. All right, so what I did was I did something really nice and easy, and I wanted to show people how to do things easy. Kids love it. It's a great dish, especially that when I make it, I do it in the crock pot. So we use it for Shabbat lunch. So it's really easy to do, and you just put it in there. You don't have to worry about it. It comes Shabbat lunch. You could do it Friday night as well, but it's great to stew overnight. And I prepared it earlier. I took the video, and I'll show you the finished version after the video.
All right, so a little preparation goes a long way. Now, you don't have to do this. Your meat will still taste good, but if you prepare marinated like any meat, it will be even better and juicier. So starting out with it's a first cut brisket. Actually, you could certainly use a second cut brisket because it's being cooked so long. It doesn't really matter the quality. This is a 2.5 pound brisket, fairly small. Unfortunately, we can't have guests for Shabbos, so we're making a small Shabbos. So just for our family, this is the thin piece. And Put it down right here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to poke some holes in it. And I like, if you don't have a tool for it, instead of using a knife or fork, I like using a kitchen shears because you have the 2 points. This will allow the rub to actually get in and help with the marinating process. And now we apply the rub. Now you can get recipes online for any rub. Frankly, there's some great commercial recipes, rubs out there, depending on your taste. I like a good barbecue flavor or mesquite. My kids like it. That's what I'm going to use today. I'm going to add some of my own spices, but you can use whatever you want, whether it's a kebab spice, a chicken rub, any kind of rub that you like, and just liberally put it on. Take some garlic here, some smoked paprika. That's a nice depth of flavor, and some roasted garlic pepper, also a little more flavor. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rub it in here. Rub it in and do the same thing on the other side. We're going to wipe down all the containers a little later. We're going to be nice and generous with this. All right, and that's it. Now we're going to cover it, put it in the refrigerator, ideally overnight, at least for an hour or two if you can, and we'll come back and we'll put it right in the crock pot. All right, so I wasn't able to marinate it all night, but marinate in the refrigerator for at least a few hours, and now we're ready to put it in the crock pot. So I have my crock pot already here. I just took a little bit of the cola that I'm using and just cover the bottom just a little bit. You can use beer, you can use soda. I like to use a little cola for the sugar and the flavor, but I'll very often use beer also. Of course, the alcohol will burn out, so it's non-alcoholic, but it does give it a nice flavor, and you can choose the beer that you like. So just take the meat, just gonna put it nice inside, and I'm going to pour, but I'm going to make sure to come around the side so I don't wash off the rub. And you see here it's not fully immersed. There's enough, and that will keep it moist but not let it boil. And put it on here. We got it on for 8 hours on slow as opposed to high, and we'll check back for the delicious meat.
All right, showtime. So it's been cooking most of the day. Let's take a look-see at what we have here. So here are my tools. I have a big cutting board. I put it inside a pan so the juices won't make a mess. And I love just taking it out, putting it on the cutting board, and bringing the whole thing to the table and carving it up at the table. I have a tong and 2 metal forks. Let's take a quick look here inside. Nice and bubbly. I'm going to take my 2 forks and make it like a kind of shovel, like so. Get in just like that. Now, I normally like to let it rest, but I'm not going to here. And then so I would just take this to the table, and then you take your 2 forks and you just cut it up, you shred it like so. And we have pulled beef. And that is really simple, really easy, and really delicious, and a great Shabbat treat. So moving along to our last presenter, my dear sister Meryl, who runs Chabad of Silhamonica of USMC. Meryl's going to show us how to make dessert, a crispy Rice Krispie treats. Meryl.
Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I got this recipe of peanut crunch, saw it at a simcha, at a celebration of my colleague Lisa Gorevich from Chabad of UCLA, and I'd like to show you how to make it today. So we take the first three ingredients. It calls for 16 ounces of peanut butter, or actually 18 ounces. This is a 16-ounce jar. I use the whole jar plus a little bit more. So we empty that into the pot. Next we have a cup and a half of honey. Throw that as well. And then we have our chocolate chips. It calls for 12 ounces. This recipe was probably made when the bags used to be 12 ounces. Currently mine is 9 ounces. So I don't really exactly measure. Pour in my 9 ounces. Eye this, it's about 3 ounces more, and I pour it in. You're welcome to really measure at home. I don't. And now we put on our fire and start mixing until it's all melted. All right, looks like it's ready to go. My honey was a little bit thick, not the smoothest, so my mixture is not so smooth, but usually it's much creamier and smoother, but hopefully the taste will be just fine. Next, we take our Rice Krispies and pour that in. Again, it calls for a certain amount of cups. I usually use almost a box. I kind of eye it how much chocolate is left and how good it looks. Make sure the flame is off. For me, I don't want it too crazy chocolatey, so I add some more, but it depends on how you like the consistency. I know the recipe only calls for 8 cups. This is slightly more. The ones I tasted by Elisa tasted delicious. People say that mine tastes delicious, so there's both ways to go. Just depends on how you like it. Okay, so it looks like my Rice Krispies are pretty well mixed in, and time to start putting it into Okay, so here I have it here between 2 pans. Often I put it into a big cookie sheet. This actually, it makes a nice amount depending on how much Rice Krispies you put in. The key now is to pat it in very firmly because you want it to be able to settle in. It's not baking, it's not cooking. You need to do it extremely firmly, so pack it in tight, and that way it cuts nicely and doesn't separate. All right, there we go. It's all nicely packed inside. And then we move on to the next step of melting the chocolates to put on top.
All right, I think now we're going to go back live to Meryl for finishing touch.
So I melted the chocolate here. Off my flame. I use this white chocolate bar. It melts pretty well. I've tried white chocolate chips. They don't melt as well. I didn't add peanut butter to it. I didn't like that it got too brown of a color. I added actually oil to get it more smooth and not seize up or chunky. So what I do is I put all the, while I had the vanilla chocolate, white chocolate melting, meanwhile I had taken stuck it into.
Meryl, you're cutting in and out.
Okay, I'll try to be. I don't know if it's my internet. I put it into a cup so that all the chocolate chips melted and became smooth. That was going on while I was melting the white chocolate. So what I do is I empty the white chocolate right on top of my packed down Rice Krispies here and spread it out all over. Both Mordechai and Rolea mentioned about the food dating back. I think desserts date back pretty far. I don't have proof for that. Maybe one of the learned rabbis.
No, you're still cutting in, you're just cutting out.
Okay, after I melt white chocolate and spread it all over, I now take my dark chocolate, cut off the tip here, and then pipe it on all over. I'm just gonna a little hover. Get it all over. And then we go ahead and take a toothpick, the marble effect. So it's up and down, up and down. Then if you want it really marbleized, you can try a different direction as well. All areas.
Bro, I'm sorry, we really can't hear you.
Do you want to?
That's better.
Oh, okay. I was saying that we marbleize the bars on top with a toothpick going up and down, and then you have to sit and let it harden so that you could cut it and work with it.
Do you put it in the refrigerator or you just let it sit?
Or you can put it into the fridge for faster. Let it go faster. Here, once it's hardened, what you can do, you can cut it into regular slices. You could cut it on the diagonal and get a nice shape that way. Like so. Really gives it a nice look.
All right, Meryl, that looks awesome. Thank you so much for the Rice Krispie treat.
Just give me 1 more second. So you have a slice here, and then one more option is if you take a cutter like this, you could create a really nice shape, and then it becomes a really elegant dessert that you can serve. Like so. You have
Wow, beautiful. What a great, terrific, sweet end to a great program here. Although we're not done yet. What a great program this was put together, spearheaded by the Heidingsfelds and Chabad Moore Park. Great idea. Thank you so much. And to Shimi, who's been manning the technology here, making everything so seamless. We've literally heard from Rodals in 4 continents across the world. And this has been so awesome to be a part of and to watch. And let's say hello, by the way, to, I see we have a guest celebrity star, my dear brother Mayor, just checked in all the way from Crown Heights, Brooklyn, New York. Hello, Mayor. And Mayor's on mute. Mayor, you never sounded so good.
Hi, everyone. Hi from New York. I offered to be the taster. I'm still waiting. The UPS just came. I thought it was one of the dishes. I'll still be waiting. But unfortunately, my son over here got fever and we're...
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I hope to do something like this maybe again. Try out the recipes. Let us know. Let your local Rodal representative know how it turns out. Take pictures. And again, the recipe card is in a link to the chat. If you can't get it, there's also an email address you can email. Again, thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and stay safe, everyone. And hopefully we could all eat at each other's houses very soon and share all these delicious recipes.